Hey y'all. Well, it's been a really good semester. Really sad that it's coming to a close, but I know a lot of us will be together next semester too. This is my presentation for the story of self, us, and now. So, for the story of self, mine goes back all the way to high school. So, mine is about the choice to become an environmental activist and to make my stance public through my everyday interactions, social media presence, talking to family, friends, basically as public as I can make it as a high school student at the time. So I was always at the top of my class. I took a lot of AP courses or advanced placement, honors courses, etc. So one of the AP courses I took at the beginning of my junior year, so I would have been 16, was AP Earth and Environmental Sciences, or APES as we called it in short. So, in this class, we obviously covered a lot of environmental topics, including climate change, agricultural practices, global disparities regarding pollution, and food production and distribution. Um, every new topic that was introduced, when we discussed its current implications on the food system, I would get really frustrated and I would get so mad that nothing was being done. And it was to the point where I knew that I needed to be doing something about it. For me, this presented a really large challenge that it may pose for some others. I've always grown up in a household that's conservative and very Republican. If there's one thing that I've learned from these classes over the past few years, it's kind of the vibe of ignorance surrounding climate change and its existence among many people within the Republican Party. This can be seen through the lack of policy change and in everyday statements by the leading politicians of the Republican Party. Climate change and its implications and a wish for change has become a trademark of the Democratic Party, when really it should be a forefront concern for every human who lives on this fragile earth that we're pretty much destroying through our practices. This has always baffled me, considering every statement made was backed so clearly by scientific fact and not opinion. But anyways, I was genuinely worried about the acceptance by my family when I began to point out the pieces of the world changing due to climate change or unethical origins of food that we eat every single night at the dinner table. These topics have the tendency to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but for me, I thought the uncomfortable feelings would translate to anger and hostility for going against the status quo of my family. First, through this experience, I learned that my family was a lot more open than I thought they would be. Most of what they didn't believe, they recognized as an issue with being educated. So when they were going through school, this wasn't particularly an issue yet. So they were just not aware of many of these rising problems. But once I began to educate them about what I was learning in class regarding climate change, food inequalities, and pollution, they began to willingly change how they bought food and how they approach their everyday actions, beginning to consider how they affected the greater good of the environment and humanity as a whole, not just themselves. That experience also taught me that most people around me may be more open to changing their actions if they are educated in the correct manner and don't feel attacked, but rather empowered. That they as individuals can make that change through changing simple actions or getting involved with grassroots organizations. So, connecting this to the story of us, a lot of what we learned in class this year blew my mind and changed my perspective on our food system as a whole and just the state of the earth right now. What really resonated with me and my story about advocacy and standing up for what I believed in the midst of conflict was the Immokalee farm workers that we learned about at the beginning of the semester. So the Immokalee farm workers recognize that a lot of our produce comes from the hands of domestic, modern-day slave labor in the United States. I never realized this was a problem still. I thought people finally realized that slave labor is not a thing that we can do anymore, but apparently some people still value money over the value of a life, which for me, it baffles me. But the Immokalee farm workers stood up for what they believed in and created something called the Fair Food Program. So the Fair Food Program guarantees humane working conditions and wages for workers who pick fruits and vegetables on these participating farms. So in the description of their program on their website, it says it harnesses the power of consumer demand to give farm workers a voice in the decisions that affect their lives and to eliminate the longstanding abuses that have plagued agriculture for generations. So basically, it's been a problem for a long time, and the fact that like this organization that has become so successful was started by the people going through it is so powerful. They advocated for what they needed with humane wages and working conditions, and they got it. So I myself had never heard of this program, and I think it's really cool. And since I never heard of it, I didn't think many large companies were a part of it. And that's just because, like, I figured, if big companies were a part of it, like, we would have heard about it. But the truth is, a lot of our food system is hidden, even the good things nowadays. If it's not in mass media, we probably haven't heard about it. But the people that are the companies that buy from these farms are actually like huge names that everyone's heard of, like Fresh Market, Walmart, Chipotle, Trader Joe's, Subway, Whole Foods, Burger King, and McDonald's. So it's kind of crazy that these fast food restaurants are paying more money to guarantee the rights of people. You think of them as just being like, greedy, big, large corporations, but they signed on to this to buy from the participating growers. So they know that these fruits and vegetables that they are serving their consumers are being picked humanely by people who aren't being treated unfairly. So now to the story of now. A big thing I've done that's honestly ruined a lot of my friends' days. They all like Wendy's, the 4 for $4, Frosties. Wendy's is great and all, but Wendy's has still not signed on to the Fair Food Program and has been undergoing pressure from many college campuses, from a lot of people who know what's going on. And I think more people would be protesting Wendy's if they know that they still got their tomatoes from slave labor in Florida, rather than from any of these participating growers with humane conditions, even though a lot of their clients and their competitors have transferred to humane conditions such as McDonald's and Burger King. So for the story of now, I urge everyone to stop going to Wendy's, educate your family and friends on why you're not going there if they bring it up. If you pass one, be like, oh, this crazy thing I learned the other day? And honestly, it spread like wildfire. I told my mom and dad about it. I told my boyfriend. I told my roommate. And now every time someone brings up Wendy's around one of them, they're like, nope, we can't go there. This is why. So it's just one of those things, educate people on where you're buying things is the ideals you're putting your money into. So just think about that when you go to a restaurant. Don't go to Wendy's if you don't agree with the fact that they're buying tomatoes from slave labor, which I'm sure most people don't. But instead, McDonald's isn't great in all aspects, but they're getting their tomatoes from a great farm. So next time you want to go to Wendy's, just choose somewhere else. Maybe McDonald's or Burger King, Chipotle, everything good. And I'm really excited to see you guys more next semester. And have a good day.